Okay, welcome back to another author interview at Crystal Lake. Today's guest is John Ward, and we will be talking about his new release, Food to Die For, which is the eighth book in the Scareville series. So I'm going to let him introduce himself, so take it away.
Yeah, hey everybody, it's John Ward here, author and creator of the Scareville book series, and happy to be here talking with Anita today. Always excited to talk about Scareville books and everything going on in my world. So happy to be here.
Okay, so give everybody an overview of the new book.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually have a copy right here. I don't know if people can see it real well, but this is my new book. It's Food to Die For, which is the eighth book of the Scareville series. Trying to think of how to framework this. More or less, a life lesson to be taught with this book is don't mess with other people's things, along with making sure you don't anger the clown. But essentially, a new burger joint opens up in the city of Traverse City, Michigan, which is right along Lake Michigan. And everybody in the town's super excited. There's been commercials and radio jingles and stuff getting everybody hyped up. And on the TV commercials, they showcase the Chunko Burger mascot and named him Chunko the Clown. And it's basically a statue that they have inside the restaurant. And obviously, that draws people's interest even more. So everybody's excited to go to this restaurant. And my main character, Kira, and her friends, they meet with each other's families and they go together. And Chunko the Clown, the statue, he's holding onto a tray of burgers and a little clown horn, and they decided to steal those items from him. And needless to say, once they did that, scary and frightening occurrences begin happening. Kids begin disappearing, and they attribute it to the fact that they angered the clown. And it's going to take people down a mysterious, dark pathway. Trying to think how else I want to do this without giving too much away. Plenty of twists at the end, I will say that, especially for readers that have been sticking with me since the beginning. I think there will be a fun little surprise at the end of this book. So,
That sounds interesting. Yeah, yeah. Never steal things from that clown. Uh, so, what inspirations are behind this entry in the Scareville series?
yeah, great question. So, honestly, I was at a fast food restaurant last summer, I want to say, and I was sitting in the drive-through, and in the window they've got a sticker in the window of a clown waving, and suddenly the idea dawned on me that we don't see too much of that clown in the restaurants anymore, and I'm wondering if it's because kids were afraid of the clown or what have you. But then I came up with the idea of a spin-off restaurant having a clown mascot and creating a horror story from that.
So tell us a little bit about some of the characters. What are they like?
Yeah, absolutely. So my main character, her name is Kira, based on one of my youngest and biggest fans of the series, based out of North Carolina. But Kira's been a huge fan from day one. I told her mom I would name a character after in one of my future books. So name that character after Kira. There's Kira's two friends, Lindsay and Maya. Excuse me. And then there's a couple other characters that are like side characters, boys that they have crushes on, etc. Anyways, they're kind of your average run of the mill kids, in the fact that they're 12, 13 years old, but they like to be little pranksters and do things they're not supposed to be doing, hence them stealing Chunko's items. I tried to really think about like what I would have found funny at that age if I was trying to have harmless fun, and that sort of thing. So that's kind of how I had the framework for the characters. And then once the scary things started happening, they want to take it back and realize that they can't. So they're trying to find answers and what they can do to try to correct this as kids begin disappearing.
Yeah, it's cool you named one of the characters after your fan. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. As you mentioned, the antagonist is a clown. And clowns have become a bit of a modern horror staple these days. So why do you think that clowns kind of have become this symbol of fear as opposed to happiness?
Yeah, so this is always an interesting topic, and I've tried to discuss this a couple times. I think there's a couple different reasons. I don't know if it's because of the face paint making them look happy when maybe something more sinister is lurking behind the face paint and the smiles that really frightens people, or if it's just the overtly jolly nature coupled with the wild costumes and hair and all that stuff that really shakes people up. But for me, I do go back to my original thought. I think it's a psychological thing where they appear happy, they're always smiling, and they've got these fierce gazes with the eye makeup and everything like that makes people wonder if there's something darker behind their almost fake smile.
That's true. I mean, it could be like a clown makeup is very close to what a mask as well,
Yep,
and that could be an association. Well, and if a clown has scared you as a child, it's probably some back trauma in your head too.
absolutely, 100%. And even like clowns that aren't meant to be scary, even if you look back at old clowns on TV and stuff, and you look at those photos, you're like, that is super creepy. Like even Bozo the Clown, I grew up watching that as a kid and enjoying it, but now looking back, I'm like, that's a creepy looking clown. Like I don't know. So
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've never found clowns scary personally, but I know a lot of people who do, so it's
yes,
definitely a thing. Anyway, so what's your favorite scene in the book without spoilers?
there's a few. I would say the end, which I don't want to give too much away with that, but the ending is one that I really enjoy. Um, I don't want to give too much away there. There's a scene where Chunko the clown, I'm not going to say whether it's the real Chunko the clown or someone else, is tormenting Kira outside her window at nighttime, scaring her and all this stuff. And I don't remember exactly how I wrote it, but Kira got frustrated at the clown and made an obscene gesture, an angry gesture at him that most kids would get in trouble for making. So I just thought that was a funny little thing, her showing defiance, even though she was scared. That's probably one of my favorite scenes. And then there's another really creepy scene where Kira's having some experiences, and she walks down into the living room, and with again trying not to give too much away, um, Chunko has some special abilities that lend itself to making some very creepy scenes. That's all I'll say. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, anger and fear do have a very strange connection, so it's interesting that you went with that in the scene. So, what was the most difficult scene for you to write in the book?
probably the ending. Initially, I had a different ending. I changed it because I felt like it was a little too dark for middle grade. And then I switched out the ending a little bit to be a little more kid friendly. And then when I got back the edits from Crystal Lake, they liked the ending, but they kind of wanted a little more punch to it. So I didn't go quite as deep and dark as I had on the initial one, but I added a little more oomph, a little more impact with it. And I think now I've got the perfect ending for the story. But that was the hard part, was trying to come up with that perfect ending for it. So
Did you find anything else challenging about writing the book? Did you get stuck at any other point in the series? And sorry, in the process.
yeah, so this one's got some dark undertones, and one of the struggles that I was having with it was how hard can I or should I push this without going too far overboard for a middle grade story. So finding that delicate balance where it's scary but still safe for kids to read was a fine line that I was really trying to walk with this one, because it is obviously deals with the magical clown and stuff, but a little more psychological horror with kids disappearing and stuff too. So really had to teeter that line, and really take my time and make sure what I was writing was appropriate.
Yeah, I would think having disappearing kids, that would be a definite fine line as to how far to push that, especially and that's pretty much a parent's nightmare, I would think. So yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So is there a facet of writing that's tricky for you in general, or especially when you're writing middle grade?
What's that? I'm sorry.
I said, is there a facet of writing for you in general that's tricky?
Uh, no, I wouldn't say anything like that, because for me, I do. My writing process looks a lot different from most other authors I talk to. I'm very big on plotting things out and pre-planning my books as much as possible. I'll hit a whiteboard and just hit the main plot points I want to hit along the way. That kind of ensures me that there's no um, plot holes or anything that I'm going to be worried about or tripped up in while I'm writing, which is nice. I mean, it takes an extra couple days on the front end, but generally helps me speed through writing a little bit easier at the end of the day. Now, there are times where the story just takes over and it veers away from my initial plot a little bit, but it still gave me the general framework to be able to work through it and stick close to it overall. Um, but yeah, as far as writing middle grade, it's sometimes tough to teeter on that line of what's too scary and what's safe enough for kids. And I have to remember that kids these days are more resilient to horror than kids were when I was their age. It's more out there, and with social media and horror movies and horror TV shows, it's more readily consumed and easily consumed than it was when I was their age. So I'm trying to take that into account as well.
I'm not so sure about horror not being readily available when we were young, because I've talked to a lot of horror authors, and you would be surprised how many of them were watching the big scary movies when they were little
Yeah.
kids.
Yep. 100%.
Yeah, and it's nice to know you're a fellow plotter. So yeah.
Absolutely.
So what's your favorite aspect of being a writer?
Oh, there's a lot. Honestly, my brain is happy and it feels free when I'm writing, which is really cool. I get like if I get into a groove and I'm writing, 4, 5, 6,000 words in a day, I'm so happy when I'm done. I feel very accomplished. But on top of that, I love the growth aspect that I watch within the series and watching more and more readers enjoy it, and then going to events and meeting whether it's kids or adult readers, people that are excited to meet me and talk about my books or get them signed. Those are probably my favorite parts, and then networking with other authors. Pretty much the whole thing. Um, I love all of it, to be honest,
Yeah, networking with other authors is always fun.
for sure.
So, what do you enjoy most about the horror genre?
That's so. It's where my head is happiest, which is weird to say, I know, but um, for people that don't know, horror and being scared is actually a good thing in a safe environment because it releases endorphins when you're experiencing fear, but you know you're not actually going to get harmed or anything like that. Um, so that endorphin release while you're reading horror, watching horror, going to Halloween haunted house attractions, that's why you're so excited, talkative, and happy after you've experienced those things because of that endorphin release. So horror is just a massive part of my life. I've enjoyed it since I was a kid. And I'm just going to continue to enjoy it. There's so many fun things that you can play with and do. A lot of different tropes and subgenres that you can play with and cross and mesh together versus other genres where it's kind of similar but different at the same time.
Yeah, I mesh together horror in a lot of genres, so yeah, definitely fun. And I know what you mean about it being enjoyable to write. I mean, you talk to someone who's not a horror author, they don't understand that, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
So, have you branched out into any other genres besides horror?
Not yet. Maybe one day. Right now, my heart and my brain are happiest in horror. Um, when I was a kid and I was handwriting stories, I did some fantasy writing back then. Uh, if I was to delve into another one, it probably would be fantasy. But I'd have to get my head in the right headspace for that because it's a completely different world and more world building, I would say, than horror itself. But if I ever did venture into another genre, it'd probably be fantasy.
Yeah, I would say that fantasy, because I write both fantasy and horror. It depends on the genre as far as the world building. Like if you went with something like urban fantasy, you'd probably have a less world building than you would if you're doing epic fantasy.
Right, right.
So that the world building kind of depends on that with you in the horror. Yeah, and if you're doing historical fantasy, and yeah, you're going to spend months and months doing the research.
100%. 100%.
Okay, so who are some of your favorite authors? Is there anything special on your to read list this year?
I have so many favorite authors. It's hard to name them all. I would say, from as far as like traditionally published authors, William Peter Blatty, who wrote The Exorcist, that's my all-time favorite horror novel, so I have to include him. Philip Fracassi is one of my absolute favorite modern horror authors. And I'm hoping and praying, fingers crossed, that I can get him to blurb my adult horror novel that comes out next year. We'll see. And then I would say Paul Tremblay is probably another one. I love his ambiguous style. And then from the indie side of things, I would say probably Nick Roberts, which you're probably familiar with because he's another Crystal Lake author,
Mm.
Ben Young, and then Felix Blackwell. I don't know if you've heard of Stolen Tongues or his sequel, The Church Beneath the Roots, but love both those books, and he's a super nice guy.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of interviewing okay, now I'm blanking on the name you just said.
Felix?
Yeah, Felix, thank you.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, it's been a long week. Felix Blackwell, I had the pleasure of interviewing him for the podcast. I think he was our second episode that we did.
Very cool.
Anyway,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's super nice.
Yeah, he is. Great interview too. Tell us about some of the other books that you've written. Do you actually have a favorite one of the Scareville series?
Yeah, so I get asked this question pretty frequently, and obviously, as an author, we love all of our books like they're our own children, right? But if I had to pick a favorite, it would probably be the fifth book from the series, which is Got Ghosts. I intentionally made that one the scariest book of the series because of my background in paranormal investigating, and I wanted to do that justice. So I wanted that one to kind of stand out as the most frightening one, and maybe I'll have another one in the future that's as scary as that. But that's, I think, the best one from my perspective. The best story in the series would be Got Ghosts.
You touched a little bit on this, but what's your next project? What can readers expect from you in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously, Food to Die For, I guess, technically is launched now. It was supposed to launch tomorrow, but it's launched now officially on paperback, and then ebook. It launches on ebook tomorrow, but or the 19th, I should say. I don't know when this is
Yeah.
going up, but
Yeah, it'll probably be out either on the 19th or after. So yeah.
yeah. So sorry about that. And then I've got a few short stories coming out. One of which is in Crystal Lake Anthology Hotel Macabre 2. I don't know when that's coming out. I know Joe said he's striving for Halloween this year, but I don't. He said he didn't know if that was going to happen just because everything's so busy right now. And then a couple other anthology releases as well. And then in January, I've got my debut adult horror novel, which is called A Blackened Heart, A Blackened Soul. And that's like a grief horror mixed with possession horror. And that's going to be a very dark, bleak book that is going to be a very stark contrast from my Scareville books. But I think people will really enjoy it, just based on the few beta readers I've had so far, and then even Joe telling me about reactions from the Crystal Lake team when they read my submission. I think it's really going to land with people and land well. So those are all the next things, and then I plan on doing 2 new Scareville releases next year, and potentially another adult horror novel
Hmm.
potentially.
Well, it sounds like we have a lot to look forward to from you, and I'm sure your fans will love it all. Um,
Absolutely.
okay, so I think we'll wrap the interview up here and tell everybody where they can find you and your books.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not hard to find. You guys can find me on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Those are the 3 social media platforms I prowl on the most and post and interact with on the most. So if you just type in John Ward Horror or John Ward or Scareville Books, you should be able to find me pretty easily. Um, I try to post on all of them at least once a day or once every other day. Facebook is where I'm at every day, but TikTok and Instagram, it's periodically once or twice every other day. So that's where you guys can reach me. My books are available obviously on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. If you're in the UK, it's available on Waterstones. I also have author copies that I can sign and ship domestically here in the States as well if you guys want to reach out to me directly.
Okay, great. That's it for this episode. Bye for now, everybody.
Awesome.